Where is Super Rugby, or what is it?
Super Rugby is, well, it was New Zealand, um, Australia, Africa. So Super Rugby, like they had different teams from different continents come and join.
Hmm.
But now that, COVID's hit and finances for rugby have kind of taken a hit, um, they've kind of, I guess, clustered together where now it's like Australia and New Zealand will be together in Super
Hmm.
Rugby, I guess,
Hmm.
in some sort. It's kind of actually like an ongoing discussion right now. And then all the teams that are in Africa are going to join the leagues in Europe just because
Hmm.
proximity and everything like
Hmm.
that. So,
Is there enough overlap between skill level that kind of the better players in MLR are able to hold their own with Super Rugby and some of the other leagues, or like how much of an overlap is it between, like, how far down in MLR can you go before it's like, all right, this dude has no shot at playing overseas? Is
well,
it
I think
is it
it's
like only the top in MLR, or like does it go a little bit further down than that?
so you mean you got to think like MLR is probably the lowest professional league, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have guys that, you know, have played in Super Rugby and then obviously don't make it for one reason or another, and they'll drop down to, a more like a lesser standard. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, a guy would play Super Rugby and he'll drop down to minor 10.
Mm-hmm.
He'll hang around a minor 10 and then he'll come and join the MLR and kind of do those 2 seasons back to back
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. Um, and I think that's like a true statement because if you look at teams now, like a majority of the talent from overseas will come from like minor 10 competitions or competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll also
That makes
have,
sense.
big names that are starting to head over the hill and decline in their, ability or,
Mm-hmm.
strength, and they'll come and
Yeah,
play.
definitely. So you're talking earlier about if that dream to go play overseas is obtainable. So for you, how obtainable is that, do you think? Because that, obviously, you're saying that's the ideal goal of yours long term, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could be totally full of myself and actually not have a chance. Like, who knows? Like, I don't know. But I think it's the fact of, well, for one, like the Free Jacks, I guess they see enough in me to bring me back,
mm-hmm.
you know, so far the last 2 years and then sign me to another 3-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would put me in Boston till 2023. And, I think the fact that if I have progressed this much in such a short amount of time and I'm hanging with people that come from overseas and, I'm, you know, doing well and I go to New Zealand and I have a good season over there, like, I think there's enough for me to kind of realize that there is a dream that is obtainable. And then another consideration that I always have this battle with myself in my head is, so for a prop, which is basically like your lineman in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So scrummaging is considered like this dark art where you get better with experience and age, just because you,
all the little tricks,
yeah,
that,
exactly,
like moving people's hands out of the way and all sorts of stuff. I would
stuff like
imagine.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
like leveraging angles and how to move your weight and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So for me being like 24, like I'm still considered young for
Mm-hmm.
my position
Mm-hmm.
because you're not peaking until you're probably 28 around that area.
Sure.
So I still have, age as a factor of, positive for me. And I think that's something that's definitely keeping this dream alive. If I was, 26 or 27, I'd definitely be like, all right, it's not really
Mm-hmm.
there anymore for me.
Sure. I want to switch gears just a tad. With have you noticed a difference in the professional guys that you play with now versus like the college athletes that you were with before, and kind of how they train, how they take care of themselves? Like, obviously, not trying to push themselves through a hamstring injury anymore, but
Yeah.
have you noticed a difference in kind of the mentality and how they approach the game?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously there's still a lot of similarities in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, College athlete, I think big difference would be, you know, how do you balance your day? I guess, you're going to have different things going on. Um, but you also have that freedom to only worry about the game, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Versus MLR, guys would be coming from work and, getting ready or whatever, what have you. So I think preparation wise too, it's a lot more individual. Like it's your own responsibility in the MLR to like eat
Hmm.
healthy, take care of your body, speak up when you know you're feeling sore or whatever. Just because, you know, it's a totally different environment. Whereas like a college athlete, like you have that infrastructure, you have those, you know, people there to monitor, you know, how you're performing, what's your body acting like, you know, and they'll also be there to, I guess, you know, push you in the right direction.
Hmm.
Like for example, when I was at CNU, we would have our morning lifts, and the lifting coach would walk us to the cafeteria, and he'd watch what you eat,
Hmm.
and be like, "All right, that's good, bad, blah blah blah." Or for me, like he would tell me, "You need to eat more." So
Hmm.
he would go and get me like a bowl of cereal or whatever, and like, "Eat this. I'm gonna get you another omelet too." So I think that's, you know, definitely different in those aspects, but at the
Hmm.
same time, you know, mentally wise, you're still preparing for, I guess, a battle if you want to call it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference between, not that you were around CNU that long, but is it harder to kind of form bonds with your teammates in the professional sense, given some of you guys are probably in different walks of life, whereas in college you all are kind of doing the same thing, or is it just
I
different?
would say it's actually easier. It's a lot easier in the MLR because I think one, you have that respect of, all right, here's a guy that's, you know, giving it his all. He's risking a lot to be here in the first place.
Hmm.
And, you know, one, rugby is always known for having like a very tight knit community that's always welcoming with open arms.
Definitely.
So I've never had an issue of like hopping on a team and like not being able to, you know, assimilate to the group or whatever, you know. Um, Whereas when I was at CNU, obviously you're there for the same reason and you all have the same interests and whatnot.
Right.
But still like, but then again, I'd also have to say you're a young kid probably, so it's different.
Hmm.
Um, you're still gonna have like your cliques and teams and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, for like the MLR or well, for the Free Jacks, obviously you're gonna have guys with the same cultural background. Obviously, you're gonna get more, you know, tight like faster versus
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah. Of
that's
course. That makes
so.
sense. How are the fans? Do you guys get, or before COVID, did you guys get good turnouts, or like how the facilities that
So
you guys played at, or kind of how did
it
that work?
definitely depends on where you're playing.
Hmm.
Obviously, like there's these little hotbeds all over the country where rugby is like a big thing
Hmm.
locally. Um, so it's pretty funny. So we had like this kickoff for the season, basically for all the northeastern teams because you know snow's still on the ground and whatnot.
Right.
And so they had this tournament in Las Vegas for the first 3 weeks, 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and um, basically it was basically like a shotgun where all these teams had, you know, their first two games. So
Hmm.
you're bringing in teams from obviously Boston, New York to play guys out west. So there was nobody in the stands at Las Vegas, just because I mean that was my first time being in Las Vegas. I didn't know if there was like a big rugby, you know,
Hmm.
culture there or not. And then it was funny because as soon as we left from Las Vegas, we went up to San Diego.
Hmm.
San Diego, like a massive crowd, you know, probably like in the thousands, I would say at least.
That's awesome.
And it was just very different. And it goes to show that there are all these different hotbeds that are more popular than not.
Hmm.
You go to Seattle. Seattle sold out their stadium, so that was a very cool experience because then it felt like, holy crap, like this is actually like a professional, you know, setting in a game is what it felt
Hmm.
like versus playing in Las Vegas where it was like, you know, oh, so and so's mom's here, like waving to her in the stands as she like sat alone. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's growing. Um, I know Boston, we sold out our first home game. Unfortunately, we didn't get to play it because that's right when the governor made the call to cancel everything.
Right.
So, and I know when we had our Carrot Cup games, like we always had a good crowd for that too.
What is
So,
the Carrot Cup?
huh?
What's the Carrot Cup?
So Cara, it's not
Cara.
carrot, but that was like the exhibition season when we put everything together with the Irish academies.
Oh,
They came
okay.
over, yeah. So that was good because I was like, all right, now we know we can get fans out here, and now we know that
Hmm.
people are interested in a professional team in Boston. So
Was it like to play in front of or was there a big adjustment for you playing in front of that many fans, like in Seattle, or did you kind of were you in the mindset of you're like, I'm just going to go play?
I mean, I think it's probably been said 1,000 times before. Like when you're on the field, like you kind of get like these horse blinders on where you don't even realize that the stands are up there and people are screaming at you. You're
Definitely.
more focused on the people in front of you talking trash than anybody else.
Hmm.
So I'd say it's pretty easy, to be honest. Like, black it all out.